I'm here to review the Hahnemühle Bamboo Mixed Media Pad. This is the 8 by 10.5 centimeter, which works out to a little bit more than 3 by 4 inches. It's 265 GM, which is 125 pounds. It's 90% bamboo fiber and 10% cotton rag. As you can see, I've already used it all up. I kept using it to do other reviews, and I have to say I really like this paper. I like the way it handles for almost everything. I made up this little test sheet and used just about everything on it. Alcohol marker, permanent marker, technical pen, India ink marker, brush pen, color brush pen, fountain pen, colored pencil, highlighter, watercolor over a wax resist, color pencil, Fineliner, technical pencil, and fluorescent gel pen. Everything works really nice on it. With the technical pencil, I really layered. I tested how well things kind of blended in and how well they erased, which actually was much better than I thought it would be. Out of all of those things, the only thing that really bled through was the alcohol marker, and I got some show through with the permanent marker. I had actually expected more bleed through with that, and honestly I do believe that if I set the pen there long enough I would get bleed through. Having said that, unless I have a paper that is really thick, at least 300 pound, or it's been specially formulated for markers, I would expect bleed through from both of those. I had expected some bleed through with the India ink marker, but there was absolutely none. Not even any show through. I really like the way that it handles watercolor. Mind you, you're not going to get the really wet into wet, drippy effects, but one of the reasons that I have been using it for the reviews and other examples that I've been doing is because it gives you quite a bit of control, but it does have a nice flow at the same time. That way, when I'm reviewing something, I can pay attention to what I'm reviewing and think about that and not think about how I'm going to control the watercolor. Even though I've been doing watercolor for a while, I do still have some problems controlling it. I have to think about it. It isn't second nature the way it is with some other things. Let's see if I can get this on this one. You can see the thickness of the paper, and I have some, you can see all this watercolor that I've been doing. That's watercolor, that's watercolor. See, there's hardly any warping. That's the other nice thing with this and watercolor. And a little bit of bowing. I used a little bit more water with that one. Here's what I'm looking for. Is I just scribbled with color pencil on this so that you can see a little bit of what the texture is like for this particular paper. Mixed media is almost always a fairly rough texture. Now, saying that, you run your fingers across it and you do feel it, but it's not what I would call, like if you were with a rough watercolor paper. It's not nearly as much tooth or difference in the different areas of the paper. You don't have those real deep wells that you get with some rough. And that's fairly obvious in looking at the work that I've done. I'm going to do some more work with this one. This was done with Mildliners. One of the reasons I tested that is because Mildliners tend to be a fabric tip that wants to pill quite a bit. That is, the fabric kind of tears off as you're using it. And it will do that with almost all paper. I've never found a Mildliner or a highlighter Same thing with your fabric tip pens like Tombows and some of those others, is they're just sensitive to the friction on the paper, and to some degree they will all pill. Some of that does have to do with the paper you're using, and this being rough, I thought, well, let's see how bad it works, and it really didn't do too bad. I won't say there was no pilling, but there wasn't any more than what I would have expected. This is another watercolor where I used a lot of water, so you can see there's a little bit of a bow there. It warped just a little bit, and I could wait that out. It's the type of paper that has a little bit of a memory that you can kind of train it. Even just doing that with my hands, I managed to get some of the bow out of it. And I had actually done this because I wanted to show somebody this particular color, so I did a swatch where there was the mass tone, the almost dry paint straight from the tube on dry paper, and then I just gradually kept adding water. And then afterward, of course, I had to do something with it, so I used the permanent markers. And again, you can see there's a little bit of show through, but there's not any actual bleed through. Now, except for this guy here that I use as a test, I've done something on almost every single one of these. That's another one I'm not quite through with. I was doing some testing. And this one I used color brush pens and permanent marker. Let's see what else. I think there's some Mildliner in there. I should have written it down, shouldn't I? And that was another test to give you kind of a feel for the fabric and the surface of this particular paper. This one I'm calling Godzilla Eats the Moon Over Manhattan. Yeah. So I've still got some fun. I did notice a slight difference in the way that paint and the various things handle on the back versus on the front, but not very much. My suspicion is that most people wouldn't even notice the difference. These do come in a pad. I had thought at first maybe I would keep it as a flip book, but the way that they're in here is they pop out fairly easily. Not so easily that I would be afraid of them just falling out as I go along, but they aren't going to stay in there forever. They're definitely meant to come out without tearing. Again, that's the Hahnemühle Bamboo Mixed Media, and this is the approximately 3x4 size, which just impresses me as being cute as a bug. I like it very much, and I do intend to get some more.